Hey, Rashawn, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
All right, we're just going to dive in. We have a favorite question that we like to start with to put you on the spot and get you sharing with us. So, we want to know what is your superpower? And like any good superhero, there's an origin story. So, how did you get your superpower? And what do you use it for?
I could think of my anti-superpower, which first, because this came up recently, and like also, it's almost like a little traumatic because like I don't go out to bars ever anymore, but for a long time, like I'm not able to get the attention of a bartender. Like I'm invisible and like I don't know what it is. And then even the other night I had to say like, hey, can you stand where I'm standing and then do the thing
And
and
it
that worked
worked.
out. Okay, yeah. So I that's like the kryptonite situation. Um, you know, superpower, again, this is a little bit more trivial, but I am great at street parking in New York City. And with the advances in the technological systems that make data available, like I will find a way to not have to pay park in a garage. Though the meter parking has gotten more expensive recently, so like it starts to balance out. But like we literally went for like a 7 p.m. Like Broadway show, like Times Square. I parked on like 43rd and Broadway for like $12, like on the street, neck
I
behind,
can
in back of like a hot dog vendor and naked cowboy guy.
Wait,
I
is
can
that luck or is that skill? So what's the superpower? Is
So the
that
super I so this I know where like the range of where to look, so there's a little bit of system building, but the spider sense of like I see someone walking, they've got that look like they're walking towards a vehicle that they're going to be pulling out of a legal parking spot. Because that's the other part. If any of you have driven in a major metropolitan area looking for parking, sometimes
yeah.
it's so exciting you see somebody pulling out and be like, oh wait, they were legally parked. That's not a legit parking spot. But so I anyway, and I used to live and work on the Upper East Side of New York City, where there are all these like street cleaning regulations. So it was another thing. There's been moments though where my superpowers failed me, but I feel like whenever I go into this city and like I end up parking on the street, I'm like, yeah, still got it.
Yeah.
you're raising my blood pressure just thinking about like that parking in New York always would do that for me. But Deep's question was a good one because there's something behind that, right? Like what is it? Is it that you're combining like an on the spot like deep analysis and observational skill? Like you're doing something, right? It's not and because I thought you were going to talk about your ability to just like visualize things, but now I'm actually wondering if they're somehow connected.
They could be. So I do, as like a leadership disposition that like I'm always mindful of my own and sharing with those who I get to work with, like just the concept of situational awareness. Now that
Mhm.
can also feel like a stressful thing to be that mindful and aware, but if you find a way to have the listening and observation be the default of being in a mode of observing, listening, processing, whatever, if there was a technical equivalent of like what part of the brain is functioning with a certain level of processing. Like again, I don't know if there's any like science behind this, but I feel like my that somehow I've been able to continue to have a sense of situational awareness that has helped me, I don't want to say see around a corner, but like anticipate situations. Again, that could be
Yeah.
like very small things like, oh, somebody walking around the corner, they're going to retrieve their car. Or bigger, like saying like, oh, well, I see all of these happening in this situation. I have a feeling that like this is going to lead to this outcome. Like this is going to be a problem. So like, what can we do now to like sort it out? So some of it, it's almost like and this is a little bit insane, and maybe drives my insanity, but like multiverse thinking that like for every situation like I'm constantly imagining the billion plus ways it might unfold and then think about like, all right, well, which way do I want my attention to go, or what feels the most likely or probable.
So you also, though, when talking about 7 p.m. at Broadway, that indicates to me that there's a level of confidence that you had that we can show up at this point to the busiest part of Midtown to get a parking spot and get one. With the multiverse awareness too, how do you get to be confident when you know that there's so many variables, most of which won't go your way?
So we'll still plan ahead, right? Like we're not gonna have that confidence where we'd cut it close because that would be bad planning. So we still leave like plenty of time and then also have like the plan B's and C's. So I still know which garage is more convenient to that area, right? But I don't want to pay the 45 or $55, right, for that. But like, so I know where those are, and I've parked in those garages, right? So it doesn't work every time, but like going in with the plan and then not also then like being disappointed or frustrated if it doesn't work, right? Because like, all right, I'm gonna fall back on this next thing. Like, hey, we want to leave. We don't. Oh, another superpower, and this used to be like a New York City thing, which is similar. It'll seem like I'm going off in a tangent. My rule around like crosswalks and like crossing the street was if I have to run to make it, I'm not gonna do it. So like I'll only walk across a crosswalk.
Yeah.
So if like it's the blinking hand or a thing, now they have the timer, so it's easier to do the math. But like before they used to have like the red countdown of like how much, warning time there is, like, and you had to kind of guesstimate. Like I would try to get a feel, like I would look at what things look like. I was like, do I think I can
Mhm.
just walk at my normal brisk pace as opposed to like panic running. Mostly not because I didn't want to look silly, because like I would feel like I'm increasing the likelihood that I might trip and then get run over and caught in the middle of traffic.
Yeah. So what's the superpower there that you like know your limitations?
Yeah, so maybe some of it's like like doing some instant physics of like what's the distance, what's the time related, like how many cars are at that light versus one light down, because you can do all of those things.
That's really funny.
It is. So I'm going to bridge this, unless, Michael, you were going to continue with it for a second.
No, no, I have
Okay.
other, no, go.
Okay, because I'm thinking on so much that when we think about teaching and learning and all these things, and you're basically describing applied skills, right? Like the way of being able to understand the world, yourself in it, make these instantaneous calculations. So there's all sorts of disciplines happening in this interdisciplinary way in the way that you're working. And your day-to-day job, you're working in a school, you're thinking about teaching and learning. How does what you're talking about in your superhero form in your lived life, how do you translate that into the ways that you see learning happening around you and the ways that you think learning should be happening around you?
So I'm a very systems driven person, and not to be like robotic, but I feel like you have to have a plan of record or system of record for everything if you're in an organization, like in a professional organization, right? This is different than you know artistic creation, or something like you're running a business or a school or something, that like there has to be structural elements that transcend human elements, like the people, right? Because even though the roles in the org chart is a type of structure, but the people within, like that's always going to change and evolve. So I'm always fixated on like what are the systems, like are they in order? Are they the correct systems for what is needed now? And or then you start saying, and is this the same system we'd want in 5 years? If we're not sure, what systems do we have in place that we're constantly revisiting our systems to make sure it's relevant for the time? So you need systems for your system upkeep. So part of that, going back to the insane traffic street walking analogy, like there's still like a core of information of like understanding the systems that are at play. And then within that, being able to have like the human and freer thinking to be have enough brain space to observe, to listen, to notice, and operate within that. So I think from like a school leadership perspective, I believe teachers and school leaders are best. It was like when the default systems are running and running well, and have the accountability systems to make sure they're running well and are going to be looked at and maintained, it puts your really thoughtful and experienced people in the best place to do what they can only do, and which is to imagine possibility, or to read the room, to understand the situation and interpret, to make relational connections that aren't going to be so linear, like all of those things. So some of that is even from a personal perspective, like how do you compartmentalize your own systems to be able to be that free? So like one habit, and tell me if I'm getting too deep in my insanity, or my systems, like I use my calendar as my like task list or to-do list. And I have my email calendar, paper notepad way of staying on top of things. But like no matter what, if there's something that I'm not going to be able to attend to right now, like so something's coming in email that needs my attention, or I know there's some project or something that and I'll call this a small thing. So that's something that might not take, more than 30 minutes. No matter what, I'll block 30 minutes for it. So literally, it might take me 45 seconds to think about and send a reply to somebody, but I just don't want to do it right now because I don't want to take the risk of not doing it well. But
Mhm.
I also like because that I think is an often decision. It's like I could probably do reply to this right now, but I'm going to stop doing this other thing I'm working on deeply, even though I know it'll only take me 45 seconds. So like my habit is like I'll either if I'm not going to get to it soon, I'm literally and it doesn't distract me to like block off 30 minutes and it'll say, right back to Michael.
Yeah.
When that moment comes up in my day, it literally might take me less than a minute to do interpret context, think, process, type, hit send. And now I've got 29 minutes that I've made myself free. I have autonomy and choice of what I might want to do with that. I might decide to like, hey, you know what? There were four other 1 minute things that I'd scheduled 2 hours later in the day to do. I'm just going to knock these all out now. And now I've even cleared that future time off to do other new scheduling. Does that make sense?
It
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 does.
does.
I mean, all of these things, even the parking, it feels like it's kind of the nexus where like mindfulness and systems intersect. And like, right? Like approaching finding the parking spot is navigating this grid and knowing the times and the this and the that, but you approach it in a way that is settled and like planted and present. And it feels like you're doing that even in your day-to-day tasks, that you are structured, time slots, all the permutations, but you're in the moment. In order to be in the moment and to bring your best self to whatever it is that you're doing. And it comes off as a superpower where you find magical parking spots and answer emails really well. But it's yeah, that's super interesting.
I love
Yeah,
to, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, Deep.
I love too that the systems are designed in order to create freedom. So I don't have the exact words as you first put it, but that seems really fascinating when you think about structures and systems around teachers that you're talking about, because oftentimes I think we say that the end goal is agency, but the structures and systems are actually impeding on the agency or taking away the sense of freedom that a teacher might have. And so, what I love about your way of describing is that it's the systems first in the interest of creating more freedom. And I'm using freedom and agency interchangeably. Maybe they're not the same, but that these systems and structures can then allow a teacher to show up in the ways that they get to be more human.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
another like time control presence related thing. So, this school where I'm currently sitting, so it's a day school. So its hours, and my kids go here, so its hours are, from when I arrive to drop them off somewhere around 8:15, until, my two older ones, their day ends around 4, right? So um, I don't teach regularly. Like I teach an arts and elective occasionally, and then there's a lot of standing meetings that I'm either called to or things that I've set up with people that like we want to make sure we have a regular cadence. But one thing that I did early on, and I was open to changing it if it didn't work, but it has worked, and I've stuck to it, is that every day, 8:30 to 10, if you look at my calendar, it just says busy. I'm not really busy, but it says busy. And my administrative assistant and then our head of school's administrative assistant, they have like full visibility in my calendar. So if like something really needs to be booked during that time, like they know how that time can be used. Of course, I'm open to that. But what I found this helpful for me is like it means no matter what, every morning, even if my inbox box is packed or like this or that happened, like I know I've got this cushion to sit and process. And like the other habit, because this is a day school with one campus, right? So we're all physically here, that like I make sure that in that morning chunk of time that I've got blocked off, if somebody sent me like a note or an email or something like that, my first attempt is always going to be I'm going to try to find them in person. And sometimes if they're in the middle of a class or they're busy, I even just try to like walk by a windowed place that they might be and like have a human acknowledgement of like, the gesture of like that kind of thing, because I have found that it does so many things. So like if I can't write back to their email right away, like it's that human sense, like, oh, they've got it. They don't even have to worry about it. And then the times that I am actually able to serendipitously be both available at that time for a quick conversation, it saves me from having to have an email to write or to schedule or to think about. And then often the conversation's better because it's saving a long back and forth.
Mhm.
And then the other part of that benefit is when I'm walking from a place to place, I run into like a half a dozen people just on one trek that like we're either catching up on anything or there might be something else we think about. So the time and space is created for those potential moments of connection to happen. And so that's been very important for the way I like to operate. And I have found, now however many years I've had that as my structure, like to me, it doesn't get in the way of, other stuff. Like to me, that is the stuff to do.
Yeah.
I, I am curious. You just said a little thing, but you said it gives you time to sit and process, but then it also gives you time to connect with people. I'm curious whether the connecting with other people is your process time, or if you have a different way of like sitting and processing. Like, do you like when you have that time to just kind of what is it? Are you like delving into like ideas? Are you sketching? Are you like conversing with AI to develop like deeper ideas? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I guess it could be any of those things, right? It's all like task and fit and process and stuff like that. So like here's an example. Um, at this school, like every other school, that it'll be welcoming a group of new or first year colleagues, in August, right, to start the year. One of the things that I work closely on is thinking about the in-person orientation as part of their larger first year of onboarding. So one of the elements that's attached to that is like setting up a buddies program. Like you would hope that a colleague who's had more than 1 year of experience wouldn't mind being like a first friend to somebody who's coming in. Doesn't mean they don't have to be job alike, like literally a community member buddy. So I had, I don't know, I had a 30-minute block. No, maybe it was an hour. Sometimes I'll block an hour if I think I might need more than 30 minutes. So I disconnected my second screen so I can't see my calendar. But earlier today, I literally had a chunk of time blocked off that just said buddies follow up. That's my only note to self. And I'm in the midst of it. Like buddy launch has already happened, right? Buddy planning has already happened, right? So now here in late May, we're at buddy follow up. There's something I needed to do. I don't remember what it was until like it came up. I'm like, all right, where am I in that? Okay, now I remember. And what it was is like I had to see who are all the people who responded to say they want to be a buddy, um, and who are the people who are brand new to it versus those who have done it before. Because we also have a training program for those who are being a buddy for a first time. So just even within that time, this all seems like very operational, but like, there's so far 15 people who have already signed up to be buddies for this summer. So like, but each of those is like 15 separate connection points, right? Like I'm not just doing like blast emails. Like I'm right, you know, making sure that each person I'm thinking of their situation contextually, be like, okay, you are somebody who works during the summer here, so your availability and responsiveness is different than a teacher who's on a 10-month contract who may be less available in the summer. So like I want to find out, hey, might you be here on August 20th when we're going to try to do an in-person lunch? So I want to like think about each of those things, but I don't feel rushed. Like it's okay, I'm just going to work
It's
through
about the
this.
time, not the task for you, right? Like
Exactly.
just creating space.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
like
like
you
I
said,
don't want to rush it because very efficiently I can have some boring blanket email. Oh, here are the 15 people who responded. Next step, I'm going to send them all 15 thing to the survey to respond to, and like that works. But I think there are better ways to get to the same endpoint.
yeah. And like you said, you don't run through the crosswalk. So you got to take the time through the crosswalk and
Yeah,
walk.
and if I run to the end
That
of my
was
if I run to the end of my 30 or 60-minute time that I've allotted, and I've got something else there, I
Yeah.
make a question like, do I have control over this next thing? Do I want to keep working on it? Or do I block off another 30 minutes tomorrow and say, buddy, follow up?
This is really practical and inspiring to me. My takeaways from this, we're actually already at 20 minutes, so we're gonna
Oh,
have to
shoot,
further
sorry.
conversation. Why are you sorry? That's
Poor use of
fantastic.
time.
No,
no,
not
that
even
was
a little
good.
bit. It's super good. And I think there's a lot to take away from this and a lot to think about. And so thank you for your time. The rest of the post below this video is going to share other works that you've done, and things like your newsletter to share out with folks that has just a whole bunch of great ideas that I think will go from, because I mostly know you through your work and less through conversations. So it's been super fun. But I think your work does kind of bridge the like profound philosophical space to the practical. And I
Oh,
think
that's
that's
very
a lot of
kind.
what happened in this conversation too. So thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rashawn.
All right, thanks.